Alright guys, welcome to this Doctor Who Series 9 Episode 1 Theories video, where myself and Elle look to break down what we're seeing and put out some theories to explain it, along with some predictions of how we think things might pan out. Elle, what are your general thoughts on this episode?
I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's been the best opening two-part we've had in probably since it came back out. And it's definitely a really strong Dalek episode for once.
It was generally the Dalek episodes can be quite weak in the way that they come across, but it's kind of really put the Daleks out there as being this great force and they're taking over the whole place. We've got Scarrow back, everything's going on, and it was completely different to what we've seen last season with Deep Breath, because that kind of it eased you into the new season, especially with the new Doctor. Where this, you mentioned it feels like a bit of a finale. There was so much going on, so many reveals. It was a completely different kind of episode.
It was definitely setting something up from the get-go. We had the Davros reveal, and then we had things like the Shadow Proclamation and Khan coming back. So I definitely think there's going to be something major happening within these two episodes.
Definitely. I think we've seen a lot go on so far, and I think throughout the season, whatever happens towards the end of it, we could see a lot of things that are thrown back to this. So we'll get a lot of callbacks and maybe some more answers. Maybe not what we'll all get in this second episode that's coming up.
Well, we know Moffat likes to leave us hanging, so we probably won't get any answers till next series.
Yeah, we could be waiting for ages. We'll wait for the 100th anniversary.
I wouldn't be too surprised.
It wouldn't surprise me either. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer some of the kind of questions that we've got from the first episode. So we're going to first touch on Davros. So the first kind of talking point here is, has he always known the Doctor and that he left him behind?
I think this is one of those moments where he didn't know, and I think the Doctor's just created this history. I don't think it's something that's always been there. Kind of like the whole Clara going through back in time thing. I don't think that was something until she did it.
So do you think this could be a different situation, so kind of a paradox? So whatever he did at the time originally, that still stands, and that's led to sort of Davros going on, being saved, creating the Daleks and everything that happened from there. But now it's kind of a case of he has that chance to go back and create a paradox, and he's kind of battling with himself, because he knows if he was to sort of go back and wipe out the Daleks, it's going to save his friends. But at the same time, it's the Doctor, and everything that he's about, it's about saving people. So he kind of puts his own personal feelings aside to do that, and he's kind of torn in this episode.
The only thing is, will he go through with killing a child? I know he hasn't in the past. In the classic episodes, he decided to opt out. So do you think he'll go all the way or?
I don't think he can. I don't think it fits in with the Doctor. I think that'd be the sort of end of the Doctor character. It would kind of kill him. So it's something that, when you put it into context, when we're seeing the 50th anniversary special and we've got the Time War, we always thought that the Doctor had gone through with taking out his own people and the Daleks, but it was revealed that even then, in that situation, he couldn't actually do that. So I don't think he could actually go through with this, killing the child.
But do you kill one child to wipe out every single Dalek, or do you save the child and have all the Daleks?
Well, that is the question that's posed. It's something that they even mentioned in the episode. We had the classic clip from Tom Baker. So it's out there. It's a possible theory. It's something that we're going to touch on a little bit later on as well. So it'll be interesting to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm really torn. I think there's a few possible outcomes. So it'll be interesting to see what Moffat decided to do with all of it.
Absolutely. I think one thing that we're kind of got to see in this scene as well, we're seeing the handbinds for the first time. So what I kind of thought was, in regards to Davros being the creator of the Daleks, maybe whatever happens here, it's left such an impression on him that that's what gave him the inspiration for the Daleks with a single eye on there. It kind of just felt quite Dalek-y to me.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some sort of connection. The only thing I can't work out is, how did he actually survive? If he was in that situation, if the Doctor hadn't come along, I can't quite figure that out.
That's the only kind of thing that you're thinking about, because we've seen the other guy that did get caught by one and he was pulled down. So is it a case of the Doctor originally, we mentioned this before with the paradox, the Doctor could have originally saved him, or maybe he just waited it out and eventually they went. Could be so many different reasons for it. Someone else could have saved him.
Yeah, it's a really weird one. It's was the Doctor ever there, or is this something he's just done? I don't know.
So we'll kind of touch on that again later on then as to what the Doctor could do. One of the characters I've seen come into this is a new character, and that was kind of Davros's apprentice. So this is a guy named Colony Sarf, who is a serpent that's made up of one big snake with a load of little snakes. So what did you make of this guy?
Usually I can't stand snakes, but I thought he was awesome. He's got like this kind of classic feel about him, and I just hope he doesn't get killed off so soon.
I really liked him. I thought like he was a really good sort of villain to bring into it. I like the fact that he's got someone doing his bidding. So it kind of just, it made it feel like, you know, Davros is dying and he's put all his trust in this guy. And I thought he like played the role like so well. And I love the fact that even though he's evil, he's a democracy. So he's got like all these snakes and they all have to vote on just how evil they're going to be. So I thought that was really cool. We also had like the guy in there that was seen from the prequel. So he was with the Doctor, and we ended up saying that he was an actual Dalek by the end of the episode. Do you think that was planned, or do you think that was something that happened during the episode? Did he get turned into a Dalek?
See, I think he must have been a Dalek all along. I know a few people have suggested maybe a snake turned him into a Dalek, but I think that's probably a bit too far-fetched. So I'm guessing that maybe the Daleks apprehended that the Doctor would go to that specific point or whatever, so...
Well, I kind of think... Well, I'm going to be far-fetched here, because I think, like, the snake bite might have done it. Like, what I would say is, if the guy was originally a Dalek, or the humanoid Dalek, however you want to spin it, then all of this searching for him, going through all these different planets, going to see, like, the people on Karn, the Shadow Proclamation, the Maldivarium... all them, it kind of rules it out, because if you've got the Dalek there, then he's kind of spying on the Doctor. He can report back to them and let them know where he is in sort of time and space. So it kind of makes me feel the snake bite might have turned him into a Dalek, and it makes me wonder if sort of later on in the second episode or episodes to come, we'll see someone else get bitten, and then eventually it kind of reveals that they become a Dalek.
I don't know. I can't decide, because obviously the guy wasn't of Dalek origin or anything. I don't know. I can see where people are coming from, and I couldn't really, for all I think he was just a Dalek in place, I can't understand why they'd have him at that specific point in time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's something to come. Maybe we'll see how he ended up a Dalek, and maybe, because you did see him like run away or whatever when the snake thing was going on, and then he interjected himself back into the scene. Maybe that's something that'll happen in part 2.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it sort of plays out. I think there's two ways that could go with it. So it'll be interesting to see which way that they do go. So that kind of covers Colony Sarf and sort of the intro of the episode. We're going to jump to quite late on in the episode now, because we've got the big talking point that everyone's sort of questioning, and that is, are Clara and Missy really dead?
Of course they're not.
There's no way they can be dead. We've already seen Missy escape this kind of situation just in the last season in Death in Heaven. So do you think this is going to be a case of the same thing, and Missy and Clara, maybe they've been transported somewhere else? Well,
Missy did say that death was for other people, so maybe that was like her foreshadowing things. And quite frankly, if you look at it from Death in Heaven, she did escape that, and it was pretty much like the same effects when the Dalek did shoot her. So I think she's maybe off in her own little Tardis or another nether sphere somewhere, hiding out until the next episode.
I think so. I think there's no way they're killing them off. Not this early. It'd be ridiculous to do so. And I think what we're seeing in sort of Death in Heaven with Missy transporting out of there, well, we're seeing in this episode that early on, when she met with Clara and she took them to the place where the Doctor was, she had a vortex manipulator, and she also slapped one on Clara, and she made a point of saying that Clara's one was a slave to hers. So wherever Missy goes, then she can kind of transport Clara at the same place. So what I kind of thought was, you know, if this is the same thing, then if Missy gets shot and she uses that vortex manipulator, she can kind of transport out of there. And then if Clara's is a slave to hers, when Clara gets shot, she can do exactly the same thing, take Clara where she is. So I think the two of them are still alive somewhere. It's just a case of where, because we haven't seen the Master Tardis yet. So she could be there, could be in another nether sphere. It's interesting. They're definitely still alive. It's just a case of whereabouts are they.
I think that's kind of why they announced that Jenna Coleman was leaving as well, to maybe trick some fans who maybe don't read the internet for news and things, and people who don't take much notice to the trailers. So I thought that was kind of a good move in the end, because I know a few of us were questioning, like, why did they announce it now? I think it was kind of interesting to maybe put the idea that Clara might be dead.
It was a good move now that I look at it, because like I think if we hadn't seen the trailers like in advance where we're seeing Clara in other situations, then that kind of tells me that she will be in the series like in some form. But the fact that they did announce it, anyone that hasn't seen that, then all they're going off is, you know, Clara is leaving. Oh God, she's just been shot. That must mean she's dead. So from that perspective, I kind of wish I hadn't actually watched them trailers. I kind of show another episode, because it makes us like a way of they're going to come back from this. I know that, but it leaves it open to your imagination. You think, you know, what if she really is dead? How can they go on from this? What's the Doctor going to do?
Maybe he'll just go pick up one of the splinter Claras.
He could do. He could just pick up another Clara. There's so many popping around. Like, he's never going to run out.
And Moffat really doesn't like to kill people off, so I don't think we've seen the end of Clara just yet.
Yeah, I think that is another good point. Moffat always kind of likes to keep people hanging around. So even though like we've got people like Amy and Rory, like who are trapped in New York in like a certain time period, he still didn't go as far as actually killing those off.
And we kind of still haven't seen River killed off, another like focal character.
Exactly. So River is still around in some form, and you know, if Missy can die and go to the Neversphere and come back, then why not River?
Well, maybe Missy's just going to have like this other thing like Rory, and maybe she's going to die every time she pops up.
Well, it could be Missy's like run gimmick now.
Like she says, death is for other people.
It is. It's not for her. So that kind of covers Clara and Missy for the moment. What we're going to do is we're seeing another sort of death, I guess you could say, in the episode, and that was with the TARDIS being destroyed. So what did you make of this? Because we've seen like the TARDIS sort of being attacked in the past, and yet this time, whatever they've done, it seemed to work.
Well, we spoke about this before we like started the podcast or whatever you want to call it. In Journey's End, like the TARDIS couldn't be destroyed by the Crucible yet. This one tiny little laser apparently destroyed it. I don't think so.
Well, it must have been some laser that actually destroyed the TARDIS.
It did look nice, but definitely not terrorising.
It did, but like at the same time, you would expect the TARDIS to have some kind of shield on it, because we've seen in sort of past episodes, I think it might have been maybe Asylum of the Daleks, where Matt walks out of the TARDIS and they try to shoot him, but he's sort of contained in that kind of shield. So it's something that you would probably have to put in place beforehand, but at the same time, you would expect if the Doctor was to leave the TARDIS behind, he would put some kind of sort of shielding on it, just to be on the safe side.
I know they have touched on it in the past, like if the Doctor's not around the TARDIS, it can be destroyed, but surely he wasn't that far out of range.
Yeah, I don't think it was a case of that. Like, surely he's just in the next room, in the basement. That's where Davros seems to hang out these days.
Yeah, he does like to hang out in the basement for some weird reason.
What do you think of the fact that maybe this could be a fake TARDIS? Because this was something that you brought up.
Yeah, originally I did kind of think it was a fake TARDIS, because they seemed to grab hold of it quick enough, like, and the Doctor hadn't really hidden it very well.
Well, it was kind of left there. It wasn't sort of locked away anywhere. It was behind a curtain.
Yeah, which seems rather strange.
So it was kind of there to be found. And it kind of brings us on to the next question, really, of did the Doctor know what was going to happen? Because if he did, then maybe he could have planned to put a fake TARDIS there, and he's kind of left it there to be found, and then it makes the Daleks think, you know, we've destroyed the TARDIS, it's no longer going to be a problem. But then again, you know, the Doctor's got that safe, he knows where it is, and he can always return to it should he need to.
See, this is where, like, during this call, I've started to get my own little theory. We were saying, like, about his apprentice, if he was, like, a Dalek all along, and I said, like, maybe it'll come into the second episode.
Yeah.
Maybe Davros is good, whatever. We don't know for definite, but there's some, like, signs that he could be, like, changing his ways. Maybe this humanoid Dalek is, like, something of Davros' new creation or whatever. And maybe that guy was getting that TARDIS for Peter, or the Doctor, whatever you want to call him. So then he can go back in time and change that event.
That could be a good point. So he kind of brings it to the future so the Doctor can then do as Davros is asking.
Yeah, because I can't understand why they'd procure the TARDIS just to destroy it up in Skaro.
That is a good point. But it kind of like brings one to sort of mentioning is the Daleks and Davros on the same side here, or have we got, as you've mentioned, maybe a good Davros and evil Daleks? Because Davros wasn't really in charge of the Daleks the last time we've seen them, and again in this episode he doesn't seem to be either. He's sort of been left to die in another part of Skaro, so the Daleks are kind of working on their own at this moment. How do you kind of see that pan now? Do you think they're working together, or are these two separate factions now?
I think they've kind of got different end goals, because Davros is purely saying he wants the Doctor, yet the Daleks seem to want the TARDIS and the other two. And you never really see Davros and the Daleks interacting, and he just point out that he says, for all he's the creator, he's not in control.
He does make a point of saying that, and I think it's interesting that we don't see him working with any of the Daleks. Instead, we see him working with Colony Sarf. So him not being a Dalek, it kind of tells me, he's been kind of pushed aside by his own creations, and now maybe he's feeling as though he's been left out and he wants to start again. And it kind of brings me in the next question of what the Doctor's going to do, because Davros wants him to kind of go back and not defeat, but kill Davros as a child, because he sees that as, even though it would kill him, it kind of means that this is his last sort of attempt to take on the Doctor with him dying. So if the Doctor was to go back and kill him, it means Davros is ultimately won, surely.
But does he actually say the words he wants him to kill him? He mentions compassion. Maybe he wants the Doctor to show him compassion, and for all he knows what Davros has done in the future, maybe he wants the Doctor to save him to stop that future from happening.
That's a good point. So maybe that is the case. Compassion seems to come into it quite a bit. It's something that is brought up, and could it be something that Davros is actually starting to feel now? Because we see him with all these controls to take out all the Daleks on Skaro, and he gives the Doctor that chance. Is it that he's given the Doctor that chance because he feels compassion for his creations, and even though he knows they've gone wrong and they've pushed him aside and they've taken over, he doesn't have the sort of ability to take out his own creation because he's starting to feel that compassion, and that's why he hates the Doctor so much, because he's maybe given him that or shown him that?
You see, it could link back to that the Doctor was never there originally, then the Doctor did show up and he was going to save him. And maybe that sparked something in the future, Davros, to maybe say, well, maybe I was wrong all along, and maybe that, I don't know, there's definitely like a conflict of interests.
It is. It's really hard to kind of explain, because there's so much going on in this episode. It's one of the sort of most packed episodes that I've seen in terms of what is going on. So I don't know. How do you think the Doctor's going to handle the situation? Because we ended the episode with him back in this first place where the war was going on with the child Davros. He's got a couple of options. He could destroy Davros. He could destroy the handmines, or he could just leave him.
Or he could take him away and, like, nurture him. Maybe put him on Earth or something.
Try and, like, make him good. Bring him up as his own.
I think that's the thing. I think most people are missing the fact that the Doctor does have, like, several other options. He doesn't have to kill him. For all it looks like that's where it's going to go.
There's so many options. I mean, we're seeing him with, not really a gun, but, like, the ray from the Daleks, as if he was going to shoot something. And you kind of watch that and you think he's going to shoot Davros. But like all them handmines around, there's nothing stopping him from actually shooting them and saving Davros.
And an interesting thing, when he says, like, when he teleports back to wherever it is on Skaro, like back in the past, he does say, I'm going to save my friend the only way I can. And then he says exterminate. Now, surely if he was on about Clara and Missy, he would have said friend.
That's a really good point. It's one of them, like, subtle things that's kind of hidden in it. So you have to really, like, listen for it and then sort of work out the meaning of it. So I think he could be onto something there. I think maybe if he was to do it the only way the Doctor can is to save people. So he must be sort of angling towards saving Davros and taking out the handmines, and that's what he's going to exterminate.
Well, he's called the Doctor after all, and a doctor just like to heal people.
Exactly. So maybe he can heal Davros. Maybe he can bring about a change in him and, save him ultimately.
But kind of bad like man ever change for if the Doctor does go back and save him maybe? Do you think there's a slight possibility that the Daleks still could come around?
Possibly. I think whatever happens in this episode, it's ultimately going to play out the same way. So like you said, you cannot really change someone so much. They're always going to be kind of set in that way. So you can change how they go about something to begin with, but ultimately they're going to same thing's going to happen. They're going to become the same person they've always been, and that's going to lead to the creation of the Daleks. And we might say like a few little things that are changing, but there's no way they're going to change them too much, and it's going to kind of rewrite the whole history of Doctor Who, because that would just be complete uproar.
Yeah, I don't think they could ever really get rid of the Daleks or change them. Or just look at the outroar, like when they brought in the Paragram. Is it? I don't know. I can't say it. But those Daleks, like everyone was like raging, saying, "Oh, they're too fat and they're too colourful and all this." I don't think they'd ever risk playing like a big move with the Daleks again.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. Like, there's so much uproar from fans when we had like the 50th anniversary, and like they changed so much, and then we're seeing like the other episode where Clara goes back into the past and sort of interacts with all the previous Doctors, and like a lot of people didn't like that. I loved it. Like, I loved the fact that she went back and we got all that old footage. But like a lot of people that watched the classic series and sort of had grown up with the history were like, well, we don't want Clara going back and changing all these things. And when you do change things, you'll always get people that complain about it. But I like the way they're going with it. And as far as changing things goes, do you think whatever happens here is going to change the future that we've seen? So it kind of brings Clara and Missy back and the TARDIS? Or is that something that you think is going to be resolved in a different way? Do you not see the future changing from what we've already seen?
I definitely think it's two different things. Well, we don't think Missy and Clara are dead anyway, so I don't think anything's going to change that much. I don't think we'll see any past people popping up who were maybe killed by a Dalek or anything.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be like we've said. Clara and Missy have to be alive somewhere. The only big point is the TARDIS getting destroyed, because that is a big thing. But what we can kind of say is, if that guy that found the TARDIS, if the Doctor did know, then that could have been a fake TARDIS that was seen destroyed, and the TARDIS is still there. So it could all be resolved that way. I think that is like pretty much everything that we've really covered in this. Is there anything else that you can kind of think to bring up that we should be kind of mentioning?
Well, there was an interesting point, and I totally missed it for the first thing. I think I've watched it about 3 times now. But at the very start of the episode, when Doctor arrives on Skaro, the boy asks, well, Davros asks, like, how did he get there? And the Doctor says he was looking for a library. And, like, you can easily skim over it, and I did until, like, we started the call. And it's just been announced that River Song's back, so I'm kind of thinking, was the Doctor going to look for River? It's a long shot, but you don't know.
I think it is a long shot when you say it, but when you kind of look into it, I think it's amazing that you've actually picked up on that. I think that is a huge thing, and it's something that could be just a throwaway line, but you can read into it, and it makes sense, especially if you was to bring River Song into this, leading into like the Christmas special. So it gives her a reason to be back if he is actually looking for her, and he knows maybe he can like sort of save her somehow. So I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing if that does plan out. I think you're onto something there. How do you kind of feel about this timeline, like the way that it's been paced, and maybe if he does sort of meet up with River, could she be the one that sort of told him how things are going to pan out?
See, I think there's definitely something amiss. I don't think this is actually the first episode. I know we spoke about it on Twitter and things, but just the way the episode felt like it panned out, it felt like it wasn't in the right section. Like, to me, I was kind of thinking, is this going to lead into the final 2-parter? So we'll have like last week's episode, the one on Saturday, and then it's going to like, there's going to be a few episodes, but then these 2 episodes are going to lead into the last 2, and then the Christmas special. Yeah,
so I think that's probably going to be how I see it as well. Like, these were 2, well, the first one was a huge one, and like the second one is kind of going to be the same thing, where we'll wrap a few things up, but I think a lot of it is going to be left, and we're going to get these kind of episodes in the middle where it tells sort of the story over the course of the series. But then for the final 2 episodes in the 2-parter, I think a lot of it is going to come back to what's actually happened in these first 2 episodes. So I don't think it's going to be the last of it that we'll see this Saturday. I think everything that we'll see, it's going to play a part throughout the series, and especially in the finale.
And it's definitely not the first time we've seen something like this. I think, was it Series 7 with the Impossible Astronaut, where
yeah, absolutely.
the Doctor died and then you went back to that at the end of the series. I think this is probably something very similar.
Well, it's something that Moffat seems to like do quite a lot, because we've seen when the Doctor actually died and he had the vortex manipulator in that episode, and he was able to kind of skip around time and change things, and we got the kind of reveal at the end of that episode of how he'd done it and how he was still alive. So I think it could be the same kind of thing that we're seeing this.
For all I think, I hope he doesn't rely on it too much, because he does think to get his easy way out. It's like when the Doctor was killed, he had the whole Tesseract and things. It kind of feels cheap. So I don't want him to rely on it too much.
Yeah, it does kind of give that cheap feel when you sort of go back and you explain things like that. But at the same time, I think it's one of them ones where if they do go down that route, you can rewatch the season again knowing it, and I think it'll take on like a whole different kind of view. So it should be cool to see that way.
Another thing we pointed out as well, that the good Dalek's still knocking around somewhere, so maybe he ended up on Skaro.
That's another good point that we've actually come up with here, because we're seeing last season the Doctor leaving this good Dalek in the universe that went back and destroyed all these other ones. So originally this Dalek was actually killed off sort of before the season aired in the leaked versions that come out, but they made the decision to keep that Dalek in place. So that kind of makes us think that Dalek could come back into the story at some point. Maybe he's like infiltrated the Daleks. Maybe he's like the one that shot Missy and Clara. Could it have been that Dalek and he's maybe working with the Doctor?
Maybe he's that apprentice.
There's so many possibilities like that. I don't know if it's something that we could like see really come into it properly. Like in terms of the good Dalek, I think it's a good sort of story element to have in there. It's just I don't know if we could see it.
I think we'll probably get that in a solo episode, like down the line. Maybe we'll have like an episode based around that.
Yeah, I think so. I think I would prefer to see that. I don't think if we had like someone infiltrating the Daleks as a good Dalek, that I think that would kind of feel a bit cheap. Yeah,
it kind of would, but I think at the same time it'd be like a bit of nostalgia for like it's a year ago or whatever. I think it'd still be like a fun element to have later on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out if we do get any of those.
And while we're on Skaro, I don't know, I kind of thought maybe will Clara somehow end up at the asylum? Maybe that's where she's been teleported to.
Well, it's a good point that, you know, we're seeing Clara introduced in the asylum on Skaro. So if this is our last series and she is going out, it's just confirmed, then it'll be kind of cool to see that she was brought in on Skaro, and that's where she also goes out, especially in the asylum.
It'd definitely be something that I'd love personally. I don't know if we will see her like turn up at the asylum, but it's just, I think it's something that I don't think they should miss out. I think there should be some talk of it at least, if anything.
Absolutely, I think it'd be really cool. So let's wrap this up here then. Guys, let us know what you think of our theories in the comments, and especially your own, because we really want to hear them. So let me know what you think on Clara and Missy. Are they really dead? Was the TARDIS destroyed? Did the Doctor know what was going to happen? And of course, what do you think that the Doctor is going to do? So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed the video, and until next time.
See you next time.